Hi, I'm Wes Allen, and I am recovering from, I think, having the flu. But I'm going to share my 2023 year in gaming. Let's roll it. 2023 has been a banner year for me in games. I got to play and run a number of systems, and I am really excited about all of them. The first that I'm going to cover is Basic Fantasy RPG, which is a system I have been running since the late spring of 2021, and this campaign continues to go on strong. In 2023, the play actually moved north of some mountains, where the players have encountered some funky interdimensional elves. They became inadvertently involved in coffee smuggling, and they accidentally released the imprisoned evil god of those interdimensional elves, which they had to go take care of then. While this is all going on, they also got their first taste of a war that has been happening off camera for most of the campaign so far. It's always been a threat on the horizon. And in order to deal with the threat that was coming to the north from these chaotic forces, they had to go and kill that evil god they unleashed in order to make sure that the elves didn't flee and that the defense of the north didn't collapse. It was a rather interesting time. Now the players are trying to get back south to their home territory so they can raise up the resistance down there to make sure that the chaotics don't run out of the mountains and defeat the south, because nobody really knows what's going on except for them. And so this has been an interesting time. All along the way, we have done 3 hex crawls throughout 2023. These are the first that I have ever run. It has been a lot of fun. The players really get into the tension of it. There's always something going on, which I really enjoy. The first was going through a forest to those interdimensional elves. It's not all in the character's reality, and so they were encountering all sorts of weird stuff as they went. They almost ran out of food. They got lost a couple times. It was an absolute blast. Then on their way back to deal with the evil god they had released, they ended up going behind enemy lines. They had to move only about 25 miles, but it had to go through fog of war because it was now enemy territory. They had no idea what really was out there, and that was a really tension-filled time as well. Whole lot of hearing marching feet and seeing people on patrol and trying to dodge stuff. It was really, really cool. And now the party is actually moving further north because they've heard rumors of a way to get under the mountains through an ancient lost city in order to get home to warn their home alliance. They want to do that before the spring fall, because then the chaotics are going to be able to come out of the mountain pass again and renew their attacks. They're not sure they can defend. So there's a little bit of a time crunch going on here as well. It's the middle of December in the game world right now, so it's kind of nice that it's linking up with our current calendar as well. Really cool. This game has been a ton of fun to run. The campaign has been a ton of fun to run. I have 2 of the original 4 players who are still at the table. We've grown and had another players come in and out of the party over the last couple of years, but it seems to be going really well and seems to be very stable. There's some cool things going on. I think we're more on the end loop of this current campaign. They got to go deal with an ancient god who has been awakened, and they're now serving the god who was trying to keep this other god asleep. And we might get to the end maybe in the next year or so, and then we'll see what we do from there. There's a couple other games I would love to run with this group, but it's been a lot of fun so far. So Castles and Crusades was my first in-person group, and I started with 8 players, people who really wanted an in-person game to play. By the time it ended, I had maybe 5 at the table with any regularity, and we got just about 7 sessions in before the thing just fell apart. Interestingly enough, I had to relearn a lot of lessons about communication while I was going through setting up this campaign and then watching it kind of crumble around me. The biggest of these was to remember that when you're communicating with people and trying to create a space where people can communicate back, you have to do it along a pathway that's going to be natural to them. You can't demand them to come onto a platform that is going to be something they're either unable or unwilling to comprehend, or just don't want to fit into their orbit because they have so many other things going on already. And that's what I ended up doing with Castles and Crusade. We had a channel on my Discord server, which is a place that is very natural for me to hang out. And on that Discord service, I posted things like game times and asked for feedback or gave information, some session recaps for them, and no one used it. I never got feedback on anything throughout the 8 or so months that this campaign was active. And I became very discouraged by it because I wanted to be interacting with my players in between sessions, and it didn't seem to be something that was really fitting with the players who were around the table. And when people started to hop on the Discord maybe a day or two before, or a lot of times on the scheduled day, only to say that they couldn't come, I knew that the campaign was over and I had to pull the plug, which was kind of broke my heart because I had a lot of fun running it. But as the convener, I didn't do a very good job of finding ways to communicate with the group in a way which resonated with the players. And that was on me. And I have shared this on the channel before, and I had people trying to say, it's not really your fault. The players have a responsibility too. Please don't leave any comments on this video about how it's all the players' fault and they need to do stuff. I can't speak to what the players can or cannot or should not have done. I can only comment on the lessons that I've learned for me to do a better job the next time I convene an in-person game. I got about 7 sessions in. It was over about 8 months. We skipped for a couple of holidays, but it worked out pretty well for what we did, and we had some fun around the table, so I don't regret actually running the game, just kind of bummed at the way that it broke down. So Numenera ended up replacing Castles and Crusades as my in-person game. I started with 4 players. They were all part of that Castles and Crusades game. Some were very communicative during that, and some were not. But I knew they really wanted to play. They wanted to have that time, as long as we figured out a way to keep those communication lines open. Since the original setting of that, we had my daughter join, so now it's up to 5 players. I have another folks who want to come in. Another person really wants to play. We'll probably bring him in maybe in the next few months or so, depending on how things go. Communication for Numenera shifted from Discord to a group text chat, which is what everybody had to agree to be part of. This is something that you needed, and I knew this would actually get pushed to everyone because they had their phones with them, and that was important to me. We also agreed when we set up Numenera that I would only be sending messages after 5 p.m. This fit in with some of the players' work schedules. They just don't enjoy having these personal interruptions in the middle of the day when they're trying to do a meeting or they're on a sales call or something like that. So after 5 worked out really well. People have been very responsive in that chat. I've gotten feedback from folks. It's been very good. And we've had 3 sessions so far. Everyone at the table has played, including my daughter who joined for the second session on. And the story that we're doing is really cool because it's emerged from the random character backgrounds and connections that we got during character creation. So that's really fun to see them weaving in their character backgrounds into the relationship of the group and to the quest that they're currently on. As a matter of fact, I am winging all of this in response to the characters' decisions. I come up with locations, I come up with NPCs, but it's the party who's been deciding what's important. It is the party that's been deciding where they want to go and how they're going to interact with it. And I just get to reveal as they interact with all these things that the problem is probably a little bit larger than their characters already expect. And it's been a lot of fun. Numenera's weird science fantasy is a really cool setting to run an adventure in, and we're just in a small settled town right now, but things are just weird enough that things feel very off. I need to scope that up even a little more. But the cipher system itself is an absolute blast. And one of my players who has played most of my in-person games at this point, or most of my games that I've run at this point, says this is his favorite system because he's so involved and so engaged because he's doing the rolling, and he loves storing and saving his experience points rather than to tier up and get more abilities. He likes to save them to do things like player intrusion so that he can alter the narrative and steer it in a way that he wants it to go. And the players have had a blast with the way things are unfolding. I am really excited to see where Numenera goes in the coming year. I have had so much fun running it so far. I expect that it's going to get a lot more fun as we move forward. EZD6 is a game that I describe as the most perfect one-shot game that may have ever been written. And indeed, I have written 2 one-shots for EZD6, did them both in 2023. One I did in 2022 as well. So I'm up to 3 total. All of them are Hallmark adventures. They take on Hallmark movie tropes, and they exist in this tongue-in-cheek fantasy world where everything is serious but really silly and probably seriously dysfunctional. It's been an absolute joy to run. These were both written for one-shot day fundraisers that I ran for my church's roof replacement fund. And I got to say that the game is an absolute blast to run. It's a blast to write for as well. It's so quick to pick up and teach. It is fast-paced action. It is a simple skill setup. There's literally only 2 kinds of modifiers in the game. You can have a boon where you roll 2d6 and you take the higher number, or a bane and you roll 2d6 and you take the lower number, and that's if you're trained or kind of hindered in a particular task. That's pretty much the only base modifier that everyone has in the game. It is so simple to teach and to run. Newcomers to the hobby were at my table for both of the fundraisers that I ran this year, and they loved the loose mechanics, but also loved that it was very meaningful rolls. If something failed, something would go seriously wrong. If they had a crit chain happen against them, their characters were in mortal danger. They had to think creatively in order to take out big demons and monsters that were coming after them. It was a ton of fun. I am looking forward to writing some more adventures for EZD6 in the future because it's just so simple and clean, and it runs really well. When I started talking about writing for EZD6 and running EZD6 adventures, and I did my review of it, I had folks asking me, hey, what about Index Card RPG? And when it came back into stock for sale for the offset print copy, I did pick it up, did a review, and went, oh, this is really cool, and decided for the next fundraiser that I was going to do at church, I was going to write a space horror theme. It was going to be around Halloween time, and I loved writing it. It was a kind of a mix between Aliens and Farscape. I was picking on tropes from both of those, and it was really cool. Sadly, I didn't get to run it for that one shot because it kind of collapsed. It was a terrible week. So many things were going on that conflicted, and I didn't have any players that could really come. And so I ended up taking this adventure to PAXU, and I ran it there for some of my friends. And I got to tell you, I love the modularity of Index Card RPG. I love how character upgrades are pretty much done all through loot. So if you want to upgrade your health, you're not just leveling up and saying, well, now I have more hit points. You have to get something that's going to give you more durability, like a heart crystal. That's going to take up one of your inventory slots, and it can be stolen, or you can be imprisoned and have it taken from you. So keeping your wits about you is going to be really important as you get more and more powerful in Index Card RPG. I love that idea. One of the things that I absolutely adore about Index Card RPG is that always on initiative, because it keeps the spotlight shifting. Characters who really want the spotlight get their moment, but then characters who may need to be a bit more prodded to take the spotlight and do something for their character, they get those moments as well. It's really cool. Combat is fast. It is dangerous. I've had players just go down or get really close to death with just one attack. Did have to adjust some of my monsters because I overpowered them a little bit, but it was really cool. I am looking forward to running this game again in the future because it's just such a neat system. It's a lot of fun to run, and it plays really, really fast. There's a lot of innovative things in it that I really appreciate, and I'm excited to get back to it. Shadowdark was a system that got announced as a Kickstarter over the late winter, early spring. I did back it. There was a quick start guide, and I looked at it and went, that's really cool. I think I'm going to try to do a live stream actual play of this. And so I grabbed 3 of my friends, and off we went on a live stream actual play. my whole setup collapsed. My computer was not powerful enough. My internet collapsed on the whole thing. It was really a little bit of a debacle from that standpoint, but we had so much fun. There were memorable characters. The mechanics were so fast, so free. Has that always on initiative that I loved from Index Card RPG. I love the idea of you go into the dark, no one sees in the dark. You have to have a torch, and there's a real-time timer that's going on with it. And everything about it is just so cool and fun and quick. And my 3 players, I think, had a really good time as well. One of the characters who had fallen into a pit trap, we thought died, but then we kind of retconned that we went back and we revived him with a really fortunate roll, is I'm thinking of his name here, is Honest John, who is a halfling wizard who has a very low wisdom and a criminal background, and we love this character. And in fact, the players have talked about Honest John. We're going to go back and revisit Shadowdark at some time in the future. Maybe we'll try another actual play now that I have a more powerful computer and a better internet connection with which to do it. And I'm kind of looking forward to getting it. But one of the cool things that we might try in the coming year is taking Honest John and converting him to different systems to see what this weird, unwise halfling wizard who has a high charisma and a pretty good intelligence and nothing else going for him. We're going to see what he's going to look like in a bunch of different systems. We might do those as live streams with a couple of the folks who want to get on, and I'm looking forward to trying out where that goes. But Shadowdark, ran one session of it and it was a blast, and I am waiting very impatiently to get my print copy in my hand. I know the Shadow Barge has reached North American shores and stuff is passing through customs, and I'm hoping to get it, if not before the new year, shortly into the new year. Really looking forward to that. So let's look at games I've gotten to play this year instead of just running as the GM. The first of these was Dungeon World. I got to play an immolator who I named Orin Cinderheart. He had some personality and idiosyncrasies. He did have a really strong ethical sense that people should not be burned. This was part of his core being. However, at the same time, if he saw something as a thing, he pretty much concluded that things were meant to be burned. They needed to be burned. And if someone treated other people in ways that treated them like things, he would label the person as a thing, and then that person was in real danger. All told, I kind of based Orin on the depiction of Amos in the Expanse series. Have you ever seen that? It's an incredible series, and Amos, I think, is the most intricate and detailed and deep character in that entire show. But Orin had this sense of righteousness that Amos didn't have at the beginning, and it actually made Orin a lot more dangerous, because if he would turn that switch to where you are hurting other people, he would come after you because you deserve to be burned. You are now a thing. It was really cool. He was really offbeat, and he had the other characters completely freaked out, which is something I really enjoyed. This was also my first experience with a Powered by the Apocalypse game, and I have to tell you, I did not understand the system and how it was meant to be run until I played Dungeon World, and now I kind of like it. I'm looking forward to going back and maybe trying to run Brindlewood Bay or even Avatar: The Last Airbender, just to see how it works and how it feels to run the game. That's something that I'm looking forward to trying out, and maybe I'll do it in 2024. 13th Age is a game that's been on my periphery for a while. I almost picked it up a couple of times, but the way it's described is it's kind of like 4th edition redone. There's a lot about 4th edition that I just don't appreciate, so I was like, I don't know if I need it on my shelf, but I'm really interested in playing it. My friend Calvin agreed, who actually ran the Dungeon World game. He agreed to run an adventure for us, and I got to play a gnome bard named Mitchell Renzik. Now, I love gnomes. I think gnomes are the coolest things on the planet. I don't know why. They just are. They're fun. Wrote a whole book about gnomes. So it's a novel, in fact. And so gnomes are kind of on my brain. It was fun to finally play one. And Mitchell had a very high charisma, being a bard, and he also had a reasonable wisdom and intelligence. The combination of all three, Mitchell learned that if he went around acting like he was allowed to do something, then people would generally just leave him alone, or he'd be able to talk his way out of something if they didn't want to leave him alone. And this was his experience throughout his entire life. He also learned that if he played the buffoon around people, folks were more likely to tell him things that he needed or wanted to hear. And this is the way that he got the material for his songs and his stories from people who didn't necessarily want to share what they'd been up to, but they'll spill the beans to someone that they feel can't do them any harm. And so this came into effect a lot during the adventure because he would end up interrogating people and getting information back, and that would lead them in another direction. And it was quite fun. I enjoyed it. Now, 13th Age as a system it's okay. It's high-powered fantasy. You roll a lot of dice, and because of this, there's a good deal of hit point bloat, which is something I just don't like. I want there to be... You don't need to blow everything up in order to have balance. It's one of the things that I wanted to look at. And so I never felt like Mitchell was in danger during the entire adventure. I loved the social interactions. I loved him being able to play out his more idiosyncratic personality, to try to weasel information out from folks, or to put himself in a situation where he's the center of attention, either distracting from other people or doing something beneficial for the party. That was a lot of fun, and it was a place to make Mitchell's skills really shine. But combat without that sense of jeopardy at all, it just felt boring. And that's nothing to say about the GM. Calvin's a fantastic GM. It's nothing about the other players who are also really, really stellar players. I ran 5e for them for 2.5 years or 2 years. But it was just like, when I felt there was no danger, it just became another game of waiting around while everybody got their turn and saying, okay, I attack again. And then hoping that I would roll high enough in order to activate a cool ability or two and maybe see something interesting in the world. I like how 13th Age is balanced enough that you can do some really cool stuff. But it's just not dynamic enough for my personal opinion that I would want to run the system or that I need to have it on my shelf. It was fun to play. I would love to explore further the world of Mitchell and that party and see what else is going on, because there's some cool things that were happening. But it's just not something that interests me enough that I'm going to pour a lot of my resources into it. And then I got to play Easy D6 in the Grimwood city setting. This is a setting that's been created by Dave Ward of Grimwood Games, who is a friend and a channel patron of mine. We did this at PAXU, got to run that one shot where I played, I think it was a werebear. Grimwood City is a modern fantasy setting. It feels a lot like the Grimm television show, as a matter of fact, and I loved that show, so it's kind of cool to have that space to be able to play in, so that was cool. And Dave is now working on his own system, because we ran it with Easy D6 at PAXU. He's working on his own system to power the setting, and I am looking forward to reading the beta test of that. I actually have the rules in my Discord, in our Discord chat. I haven't had a chance to download them and read them yet because I have things going on, but I am planning on doing that. I'm looking forward to seeing what he has coming up. I think it is D12 based, and I love D12 based games because any game that uses what would essentially be an improvised missile weapon, that's a game that I want to play. I love how hefty D12s are. They're my favorite. And so I'm excited for that. The last new game that I'm going to be playing in 2023 is going to happen on December 28th. I'm going to be in a live stream actual play testing the new SAGAS system. I have no idea what this is going to be like, except that it is a horror setting and that SAGAS is a genre agnostic game. I still need to read the beta rules. They're sitting on my iPad. I've read about 1/10 of them. I need to put them at the top of my reading list, so I'm ready to go for the 28th. It's going to happen at 8 o'clock. I'm going to put the link in the description below when I get it. It should be posted later today as I'm recording this. If you are interested in the SAGAS system at all, you can get them now on DriveThruRPG, the beta test anyway, and I'll put that link in the description below as well. But this checks off a box for me because I've always wanted to be on a live actual play, and this was one of my goals for 2023, and almost at the end of the year, I'm finally going to be able to do it. I'm really excited about that. Okay, so coming up, I have finished reading Candela Obscura, which I think is a very cool game. I have not watched or read any other reviews of the game. I've seen some scathing thumbnails on it. I'm interested to see what they are saying after I do my review. My hope is to write the review today and to record it by the end of this week so I can get it out by the end of this year, before the new year. That'll be my last video for 2023, I think. Then I'm going to start reading Adventurous, which is sitting on my shelf mocking me. I'm looking forward to doing that. I also, this week, got in the Cipher System Godforsaken book, which is the fantasy setting book for the generic Cipher System. Monte Cook Games was very gracious to send me that review copy. And they also sent me another copy of the Cipher System Core Rulebook, which I already have sitting on my shelf. So here's what I'm going to do. This is going to be my first giveaway. When I hit 3,000 subscribers, which is not too far away, it's just about 700 subscribers away at this point, I will give this book away to a viewer. I am looking forward to doing that. I also have to talk to some of my friends who have done giveaways on YouTube to figure out how to do it the best way. But I'm looking forward to actually getting this done. This is going to be really cool. So kind of fun. And then when I hit 5,000 subscribers, I have a second copy of the second edition AD&D Player's Handbook, because I bought one and then got the one from my youth back. I'm going to give the one that I bought away when I hit 5,000 subscribers. So maybe I'll have a couple giveaways to do in 2024. Really looking forward to that. Then in January, on January 6th, I am going to be at the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo. I'm going to get to play in 2 games. Beyond the Lost City in the afternoon is going to be a Beck Me game, and then in the morning I'm going to play my first Dungeon Crawl Classics funnel. I am excited to play that. So that's going to be an absolute blast. Going with one of my players from my Numenera campaign and my Basic Fantasy campaign, we are going to drive up on Saturday morning to Oaks, PA, and we will enjoy that. That's going to be a lot of fun. The other thing that I am planning for that is going to be taking up a lot of my time in the early part of this year is we are going to be running a small convention at my church called Ecclesicon. And that's going to be on April 12th through 14th. It is going to be another fundraiser for my church's roof fund because we're paying off the loan that got that work done so far. But it's also going to split the proceeds with the local food pantry, which is down the street. They are combating food insecurity for a lot of folks in this area. Do some wonderful work. Our church is really involved with it. I go down and help them load food one Friday a month. Fresh produce that we get in from our local produce stand goes down and buys it. It's a lot of fun. They do great work. They are getting folks stuff that they absolutely need. And I have personal stories and encounters with people who have essentially been saved from deciding how to pay their rent or their mortgage or buy food that day or that week through the food pantry's work. It kept them on their feet and it got them back to a place where they could live again. So it's really important work to me personally because friends of mine have gone through this cycle, and it's great that we're going to be able to support it this way. So if you're interested in coming out to play at Ecclesicon, tickets will hopefully go on sale in January as I get the schedule more set. At present, we are looking for some more GMs who are willing to run games, or folks who might want to be on a panel or two to talk about their experience running certain systems, transitioning from one type of game or one style of game to another game, or maybe what it took to get on YouTube, if any YouTube stars in the area want to come for that. I'm also going to begin soliciting probably in January for GM Tall Tales. I want the oddest, most off-the-wall stories that you have from GMing a game, or maybe even a story about your GM. Nothing mean. So I don't want mean. I do not want raunchy. I just want really weird, cool, funny stories. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these in. We're going to give them to a couple folks, and we're going to do a dramatic reading of these GM tall tales at some point during the convention, probably at a panel or in our panel hall at some point in either the morning or afternoon session on Saturday. Should be fun. I am not quite ready to start soliciting those stories yet, but I will be very soon. That'll probably get submitted through my DM Tales website. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and we're thinking up some other cool things to do during the convention as well. I am planning this with my Monday group. Those are the folks who played Dungeon World and 13th Age with me. They are people that I've known for years, and we should be having a lot of fun with that. And there's already some great games that are going to be played. Cannot wait to announce more in the coming months. So that is my year in 2023 gaming. That is some of the things that I'm planning to do in 2024 already. I have had a blast this year. My YouTube channel has grown leaps and bounds. It has been a ton of fun interacting and getting to know some folks that I would not have encountered without this medium. And so that's what's going on with me. What is going on with your games? What are some of the highlights of your gaming in 2023, and what are you looking forward to in 2024? Share those in the comments below. And until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.